Hey guys, Break here, and today we're going to be talking about gear, the stats on gear, and how you could be missing out on making a lot more gold just from not knowing the good stats of your gear and not pricing it at the right price. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, let me explain and show you. So we're going to make some silkweave epaulets, almost 3k profit per epaulet, and we'll make say 4 of those. There we go. What else should we make? We'll make the robes. Look at that. Over 5k profit per robe. Very nice indeed. We'll make a few of those. I'll run out of lace stone. Silly me. And we'll make some pantaloons. A few pantaloons. Over 2k profit. A lot of profit to be made. Oh look, we can make some slippers as well. Another over 2k profit. So I'm just making the profitable things to sell later. But I will show you guys exactly what I am talking about. As you can see, the different stats on all the gear. Each gear has a different name. Slippers of the Peerless, slippers of the Quick Blade, slippers of the Fire Flash. There is also adaptable, harmonious. I think that's it. There might be another couple. If you are not aware by now, in Legion when you make gear it has random stats. Just like all the RNG in the game, this is another little bit for all you guys who love their RNG, which is no one. Actually, I do quite like it for gear. I think it adds a bit more excitement to the crafting system. I might get a lot of hate for that, but let's be honest, crafting gear isn't very exciting usually, but to get something like this is pretty cool. Now, obviously, different gears have different weights, and different classes prefer different stats. You know, if you think about it, a warrior, for example, loves mastery. At least an arms warrior does. It's by far their best stat, better than anything else, I believe. And the Mythic Raiders know this. Well, anyone really who's playing a warrior and bothers to look up stuff like that will know this. But generally the people who buy gear are usually the higher end raiders trying to level up an ult really quickly, that have been talking in their raid to the warriors. Hey, why are you doing so much damage? Well, because I've got all this mastery gear. They're like, hey, I want to do that. I'm going to go gear up my warrior real quick, go buy some demon steel gear from the auction house, and concentrate on the gear that has mastery. If you were to look at demon steel gear, which we will do in a second, the mastery stuff is going to be selling for a hell of a lot more than anything else. The same goes for the class necks that you make with dual crafting. When you make the warrior neck, if it has mastery on it, it sells for a hell of a lot more than any other stat. And if it has double mastery on it, well then you're basically laughing and you're going to be making a lot of gold. What do I mean by double? Well, occasionally some things can have double of a stat, such as right here, the epaulets of the adaptable. So if you see here, it's got crit verse, crit haste, double versed, you know, so generally it adds up to about 1,000, 1,100, something like that. If you add the verse and the crits there, it's just over 1,000. Same here, and again 1,028. So maybe it always adds up to 1,028. I'm not certain. Probably does. Doesn't there? Anyway, that's what I think. And sometimes instead of having 2 stats, you'll just have 1 stat. Right here is verse. And if you look at the min buyouts for the items, this one has 3.6k, this one's 3.9k, and this one there are no items with the verse on the auction house, but market value is around 5k, region market value is about 10k. So I'll probably post this at about 10k. Because there's none on the auction house, and if someone wants to concentrate on versatility, which is annoying, not many people like versatility. It would be much better if this was another stat, I'll be honest. I don't know of any cloth classes where versatility is the best stat, but there might be some. Anyway, there you go, versatility 1028. Now sometimes the differences of stats don't make much of a difference to the price. For example, TSM here, min buyout is 1679 for a crit mastery, and a haste versatility, completely different stats, is 1680. So there's a 1 gold difference in price, literally nothing. However, sometimes it does make a big difference. For example, the crit versatility, these two here are both worth 3k. In fact, they're all crit versatility. And then if we go to the fire flash, this is crit haste, and there aren't any crit haste on the auction house. So again, we could sell that for more. Similar differences here. 1.4k for the braces of the Aurora with haste verse, but with the crit mastery it is 2,400. It's almost double, and you do have to take this into account when looking at TSM as well. So the profit here is for the absolute minimum. So for the epaulets, when it says 2,700 profit, that is basing the absolute minimum for the epaulets, which is 3,691. However, some epaulets sell for more than that, as we see with the epaulets of the adaptable, for example. There's none on there. So when you are looking at TSM and you notice that the profit is only 300 gold, and you think, oh, maybe it's not worth making this if it's only 300 gold profit, well, actually that's the absolute minimum profit, and if we get some good stats, we'll get a lot more. What just happened? I just unlocked the rank 3 Kinch. That was interesting. That's just ruined the profits because it's all changed. Anyway, the profit minimum was 300 gold now, and that was basing the average price of 1,600. As you see there, min buyout 1,600. But if we look at these, that's 1,900 because it's haste mastery. Haste mastery, great stats. That's also 1,900 crit mastery, and it's the crit haste which is the lowest one. So again, TSM just thinks of the lowest price, which is the crit haste, which we got here. So that's 300 gold profit, but these are 600 gold profit because they're better stats. Now, in terms of selling these with TSM, if you use TSM, which I hope most of you do, then you may encounter some issues. That's because TSM doesn't like to recognize the different prices. However, if you download my groups based off Shearers but adapted so they work like this, then you can go onto my Payspin, download my groups. Anyway, these will recognize every single different enchant and price it differently. For example, this is all undercutting, but then the epaulets of the Fire Flash, there aren't any on the auction house, which is cool. So it's posting those for hire. Same with the gloves of the Fire Flash, and same with the epaulets of the adaptable. If we do go on to, okay, that's the epaulets of the Fire Flash with none on the auction house. But if we go on to the adaptable, that was that full versatility one we got, the rare one. So it's posting that for a lot more, whatever your normal price is set at. And you know, that's how it should be. If you're the only one of a certain stat on the auction house, then you can charge more because people may want to pay more if they want that certain stat. So yeah, that's all you need to do really, guys. If you want to set it up yourself, then you need to literally add the item IDs for every single separate one, and it can be annoying to do. Just make sure when you're adding, if we go to here, make sure when you're adding to not to tick ignore random enchants, because that will just post the base item, this here. You actually want the base item and the different items in the group, because otherwise it will mess up your TSM crafting. TSM's just pretty messed up, but you want both the base item and all of the different stats. It can get very confusing, but like I say, if you do download my groups, it works. I did all the hard work. You guys can reap the rewards. Lucky you. So there we go, guys. I basically don't want you missing out on a lot of gold with you just ignoring whatever it says, Fire Flash, Quick Blade, and just posting for the lowest price, because like I say, you could be sitting on a gold mine, particularly if you get double of a certain stat like I got with Verse. But if you get that with a good stat, you're really in the business. Or if you get really good stats for that particular class, like I say for a warrior, if you get haste mastery or double mastery, you're in the business. If say you're making leather and you get like a druid piece, haste mastery again would be awesome. I know some classes love crit, so if you can get some crit for those armor types, you'll be in the business as well. Of course, you can check these stats out on Icy Veins. You go on a different class guide, say for warriors, armed warrior, it will tell you what stats are best. That's what most people go off, but at the same time the auction house should already kind of have that set out for you in terms of other people will probably be pricing at different prices, so you should just undercut whatever it is, unless everyone on your auction house is ignoring the stats, and then maybe you could start buying them out. I mean, if you go on the auction house and you see a double stat of something, like with my double verse, especially if it's double crit, double mastery, you can get that, buy it out and post it for a lot more. If you actually look in my chat box right now, this person here is trying to sell the warrior neck, and he's selling it with huge amounts of mastery. Look, it's proc 700 haste, 1500 mastery, which is awesome. That's the thing with the necks, they can proc completely different stats in terms of different weights of stats, because he's also selling one with 1175/1299 mastery. So if you wanted more equal haste mastery, you could buy that one. But this guy is going to be selling these for loads, a lot more than he's going to be selling anything else. Like any other neck for warriors, this is just going to be valued at way more, and he's been trying to sell these in trade for ages. In fact, should we whisper him? How much for... Let's see what he says. I bet he's going to be charging crazy prices. And look, here you go. The haste mastery, which is mostly haste and only a bit of mastery, it's going for 7k. But then more haste and less mastery, bloody blah. Now, this is the problem with the necks. Pricing on TSM is really weird, because not only can the main stats be different, you can get quick blade, peerless, bloody blah, but also the fire flashes, for example, can be different. Like these specific ones can be different, like we just saw. If we go like that, that is completely different prices depending on the stat weight. You know, the more mastery, the higher the price. As we said, warriors love mastery. So we start off with 700 mastery, really cheap, 1100 a lot more, 1300 a lot more, and then 1400 even more still. You guys get the picture. In fact, he tried to sell it for 34, one of them, and then someone else undercut to 25. So there you go. That is a really important thing to realise. Fortunately, gear is not so complicated. If it's each peerless, for example, has the same stat weights. Fever Flare, Peerless, Fire Flash, Peerless. So look, Peerless here, 441 crit, 587 mastery, and same here. But with the necks, you can get different weights depending on whatever. So yeah, kind of more complicated, but also another thing for you to bear in mind. The same goes for the rings as well. And in terms of TSM, for the different stat weights, I'm not sure you even can set it up to recognize the different weights. I haven't anyway, so if you're using my groups and you do get a really good weight for a neck, then you're going to have to manually price it and check yourself on the auction house, because TSM finds it really difficult to do that, because usually it just looks at the name, the different names. But obviously they're all called Gorget of the Fever Flare, but some are different. It's just like when you're dealing with 101 BOEs or raid BOEs, and some have like speed or leech, even though they've got the same name, and that leech can be recognised, but that's a completely different stat. These are the same stats, just different weights. So kind of complicated stuff, but stuff that you guys do need to understand. The TLDR for this video is just, number one, don't be afraid to craft things that have a very low profit, or even like 0 profit, because that's going to be the minimum. And if you can proc a good stat, you're going to be getting a lot of profit. And number two, make sure you look at both the stat weights and the stats. So for the necks, the stat weights, and for the gear, most importantly, the names. Each different name has different set of stats, and these can sell for more or less. And number 3, make sure your TSM posting will recognize this. Get my TSM groups, go make your own, whatever. It's really important because it's going to basically double your gold in terms of the gold that you're making gear on. Because sometimes you'll get like triple the gold what you usually would get, and you don't want to be missing out on that. So you're going to be making a lot more gold if you can just pay attention to these little things. Anyways, that is it, guys. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.